It's a little too cold for me, yeah. The room temperature is the best, I love room temperature water. I think so. At first, but I just like it.
So is it gonna let me?
No,
Okay.
I think but not I just read somewhere.
Does it mess up like your?
Yeah, that is.
Alright, you wanna start
Is
with
that what's
that?
wrong?
Yeah. I mean,
What it is?
Alright guys, how you doing? How you doing?
Warm water,
How you
right?
doing?
Like
Doing great.
Like, okay.
Dwayne, appreciate the lady. He made me official today, so. Oh, it doesn't really show up on the screen.
Yeah, it does. I can't
You're not
see
using
it.
it right.
There you go.
Alright, there we go. Alright guys, so,
Where is it?
It was at
There we
the
go.
top.
it's kinda, I think I
Oh,
need
we
some,
don't see it.
some batteries. So, today we're gonna talk about finish. Seems like you guys been having fun, so I hate that I couldn't be here with you, but I'm glad I'm able to jump in on the party and give my 2 cents in it. But Thurman, thanks for the opportunity, man, to share. So, has anybody ever, well, let me ask you guys this. Would you guys say that you do pretty well at finishing stuff that you start?
Where?
Or
Here or
Not
at
crap.
home?
just in general? Or would you say you more chronic starters? Like you start a million things and you really never get them done? I mean, cause that's me, if I can be fully honest.
If I execute all the ideas I have, yeah, I don't get nothing.
How many people have, anybody have like, Thurman's giving us like these little notebooks over a period of time? Like anybody have a bunch of compositions that just got a bunch of pages in it that you never, how many people actually complete a composition book?
Oh.
Cause I got a million of them that I haven't finished. And when I was thinking about this, there's so many things I've started that I just haven't done. I mean, there are books that I started and then I get excited about the next book and then I go on to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or different plans, reading plans I started that I just never finished out. So the whole idea of this is we start a lot of goals, but I think this is a perfect time to talk about finishing things. You know, it being towards the end of the year. You know, what things have you started January 2022 that you hadn't really finished yet? Anybody started any new goals back then that you can remember, even at this point? How you guys come with it? You on top of it? Okay, that's all I'm saying. Anybody else started some stuff and kind of lost track mid-year?
Pressure's on, man.
Yeah, pressure's on. So that's me, to be honest. I don't remember what I talked about in January 2022. But that's the point of writing things down. But what we're gonna talk about today is really, I would like to think of it as hacks. You know, it's really mindset hacks, different ways you look at it, because probably one of the most powerful things that you can be other than a starter is a finisher. You know, because a lot of people start a bunch of things. It's easy to start projects, but how many people are really finishing projects and getting things done? It plays such a huge role in how you see yourself and your character and a lot of different things when you learn how to finish. So the topic or the content from this little presentation I have here, it comes from a book actually titled Finish. Give Yourself the Gift of Done by a guy named Jon Acuff. Anybody heard of him? So Jon Acuff, he has a well-known author, has a lot of different books. And he hits on some very, very key topics here. So here's the agenda. So the points that you see are actual titles of the chapters that are in the book. Not all of them, but some of them. We're gonna hit on some of the concepts that he talks about. So the day after perfect, cut goal in half, choose what to bomb, and leave in your hiding places. So again, these are mental hacks. These are things that if you begin to look at what you're trying to accomplish in a different way, or how you are even setting goals, I think is a big thing that helps you start to accomplish goals and get them done. Because a lot of times, truth be told, when we set goals, we set pretty lofty goals. And we may not even realize it, but it's because of this enemy right here, called perfectionism. Yeah. Who can tell me about perfectionism? How would you define perfectionism?
Yeah, that is very difficult. That is difficult. I don't know, but I feel like the things has to be more perfect, and then if it's perfect, then I feel like it's more to be perfect. So there is a perfect definition.
Yeah, that's it, man. Anybody else?
I feel like it's just like never feeling fulfilled with what you're doing. Like you're never satisfied with whatever it is at hand.
I agree 100%. So would you say everybody here, you felt a little perfectionism at some point? So, you know, when I was looking up the definition, it said the need to be perfect or appear to be perfect. when actually, or even believe that perfectionism is even, being perfect is even possible. But when you think about it, being perfect is not really possible. Because number one, you know, I used to look at perfectionism from a healthy standpoint. So when you think about it, would you say it's healthy or would you say it's a flaw? More of a mindset flaw. Mindset flaw. I used to look at it from a healthy. Say that again, Joe.
I feel like it's a fine line where it really could be either, whether it's gonna make you more detail oriented to kind of what you have to be when it needed to.
Right.
But it can also kind of be a flaw if it's gonna take up too much time or too much of what you're really focusing on.
I agree with that, you know, because it depends on how you look at it. And I used to look at it from a standpoint of, I'm giving my best, you know, I'm striving for, to give my best at this work, but I was confusing perfectionism with excellence. You know, I was confusing it with giving it my all. But a lot of people get stuck here. They get really stuck at perfectionism when, you know, when you think about being perfect, I was thinking, even if I was watching a gymnastic event, and if the person got all 10s across the board, you would say, oh, they perfect, right? They got 10 out of 10. Well, what if you put 3 new judges up there? They could have gave them 8.5, 9. So at the end of the day, it's really something that's subjective. You know, it's really based on that person's judgment. Even yourself, you could get up and you could be performing some type of skill. You may say, hey, I killed that. You know, I just did an awesome job. And, you know, your coach and mentor could say, hey, I got a couple things for you to work on. You know, so it really all depends on how you look at it. So perfectionism is this thing that we continue to grasp for, and the reason this is the enemy because it causes us to set lofty goals, you know, and it causes us to set goals that could really trap us. Here's the trap of perfection, because we set a goal, and every time you set a goal, it's almost like you're making a promise to yourself. So you set a goal, you make a promise to yourself, then you don't hit that goal, so that's a broken promise. So you set a promise, you make a promise, you break a promise, you make a promise, you break a promise. What'll happen eventually? Like if some,
You continuously let yourself down.
Exactly. So if I was a little boy that cried wolf, would you continue to show up? Eventually you're gonna, like if it was someone that kept lying to me, I'm gonna stop believing them eventually. How do you think it feels to stop believing yourself? Yeah. And it can begin to impact character, begin to impact self-image, self-respect. It's almost as if the person that said, they've been telling themselves for years and years, man, I'm gonna start working out. You know, I'm gonna lose this weight. And then, you know, you set a goal, New Year's resolution, you know, work out 4 days a week, lose 20 pounds. Subconsciously, you're like, no, you're not. You get to a point you don't even believe yourself. And that's the thing about, I've realized to really, if when I wanted to start growing my character, I had to start setting goals that I could actually accomplish and then following through on those goals. Because when you do that consistently enough and you see yourself accomplishing goals, then you begin to build a level of confidence. But perfectionism, it talks to us. It's speaking all the time. What do you guys think that perfectionism is saying? Think about it. What somebody even said something earlier, but what are some of the things that you hear when you're about to set a goal and perfectionism pops in? What do you think some of the common verbiage? Anybody know what it sounds like? Go big or go home. Shoot for the stars. You can finish that in no time. Well, it has to be perfect. You know, so these are some of the common things that you'll hear from perfectionism. So the first book or the first chapter of this particular book, they talk about something about planning fallacy. So this is something that we do all the time. So planning fallacy is when we have this so typically, would you guys agree that when you're setting a goal for something, there's typically positive emotions around it?
Yeah.
Pretty positive emotions, pretty high emotions at the time. You're motivated, you're inspired at that point, so you set a goal for yourself. A lot of times we plan fallacy though, meaning that, you know, you set a goal for yourself and you're very optimistic about what you want to accomplish, but you really hadn't thought through the resources it's going to take, the level of energy it's going to take, the level of time it's going to take to accomplish this goal. Sometimes it's money. You know, sometimes it's time away from family or kids. If you're writing a book and you have 3 kids at home, well, you gotta carve out some family, you gotta carve out time to be able to get away from kids. Maybe it's getting up at 5 in the morning, maybe it's staying up late at night, but sometimes we create these goals and we already set ourselves up for failure because of the emotions that are behind it. 92% of people fail at their goals due to foolish optimism. And now every statistic I put in here, Naomi, I can't help but think about your statistic on statistics. So I don't know how accurate this is, but 92% of people fail at their goals due to foolishness. I mean, not foolishness, foolish optimism. So how many people have started New Year's resolution and then follow through? Anybody in the room? So typically, the day after perfect, there's a high percentage of people that fail day 2. So they start a New Year's resolution, they start off good, they're in the gym for 2 hours, they go hard, the next day you don't see them again. The next day they don't show up. And what do you do after you fail? What do you do after the day after perfect? Because the first day was perfect. You showed up, you did what you said you were gonna do, right? The one I see you smiling back there, is this resonating with you a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
So you were perfect the first day, but then you failed the next day. So what happens? So a wrong size goal can be powerfully destructive. So the author talks about his friend going to the gym every day. He was on the treadmill every single day. He would do the stationary bike weekly. He was in the pool once or twice a month, but he was going to the gym 6 days a week. So he set a goal. He said, "Hey man, I'm gonna do a 70.3 mile Ironman." He said, I'll give myself 8 months to train for it. Give myself 8 months to train for it, but I'm going for this Ironman. What do you guys think happened?
I don't know.
Foolishness, bullshit.
I think it's foolish optimism.
So
Maybe like a 5K.
Place to start.
So because he set a goal that was so lofty, because imagine this, he's feeling good about himself. He's probably doing something he hadn't done before. He's in the gym consistently. Emotionally, he's high, his confidence is high. I'm finna do this Ironman, I'm finna get it done. When he set the goal, he stopped going to the gym altogether. It was such a big goal for him, right?
Like it was so
It was a
intimidating.
massive goal, intimidating. He just stopped going to the gym. He stopped showing up. And he was going every single day before he made that goal. So that's how dangerous setting a goal that's too lofty could be, and breaking habits that we already have positive. So Naeem, tell us a little bit about the snowball effect.
Oh, financially?
This is an example of it.
Like if you have a lot of debt,
Mhm.
kind of going through and listing them from the smallest amount, say you have, like $500 on a credit card, and then, then listing them larger and larger and larger, and you already have in your budget, this is how much I'm paying into debt, X amount, right?
Mhm.
And then you're like, I can actually put a little bit extra. Maybe you have that $500 and you can just pay off that right there. But, so you have that in your budget with a little bit of, and you paid off that 500, now whatever principal you're paying to that one, you can pay to the next one.
Mhm.
And then once that's paid off, and you never stop paying the amount of debt, or the amount that you've budgeted for debt each month, you just eliminate the smallest one each time, so that the amount that you're paying on the next one is larger and larger and larger.
So she said eliminate the smallest one the first time. So if I had $50,000 worth of debt and I wanted to get out of debt, let's say this, or someone, let's say they set a goal, man, my next year I'm gonna be debt free. And let's say the $50,000, they had a big lump sum of $30,000, credit card debt, whatever the case may be. And their mindset is, hey, let me go ahead and knock out this $30,000, because if I knock out the $30,000, then all I have is $20,000 left, so let me get this out of the way first. Well, imagine that. Imagine you changing your lifestyle, you foregoing eating out, doing different things, and you start to knock out this $30,000 worth of debt, and you 60 days into it, and you feeling it. Like you feeling the change, and then you look at your debt, and you don't see much has changed there. How encouraging you think that's gonna be? So that's why it's powerful to start with the smallest goal first. And there's a concept, this kind of introduces the next concept of cutting the goal in half. But get a win under your belt first. And that's the big thing with snowball effect. Get a win, get the emotional high that's going, and then that can continue to build momentum. Less perfection equals greater productivity and success with goals. So guys, if I can say there's a theme of this talk, is really learning how to tolerate imperfection. Learning how to live in imperfection, because at the end of the day, we're not going to be perfect. And being able to recognize perfection and understand that when you are setting a goal that's based on perfection, and then after the day after you were not perfect, learning to tolerate that, learning to be okay with that, and just continue to pick up from where you are. So cutting your goal in half. So this is one of the mindset hacks. So let's say, for instance, if you had a goal, whether it's losing weight, whether it's running 5K, whatever it is, even paying off debt, sometimes it's going to be better to cut the goal in half, or sometimes it's better to extend the time in which extend the time in which you said you were going to accomplish that goal. So if you want to pay off debt, well, you can't really say, I'm going to pay off $25,000. You can't cut that goal in half. You still got to pay off the whole debt. So it may be better to extend the time instead of saying, well, I'm going to do it next year. You're making $45,000 a year, and you got $5,000 to $10,000 habit every year. More than likely, you're not going to pay that off in a year. So extend the time. Make it a 3-year goal. Make it a 5-year goal. Because ask yourself the question: what's the worst that can happen if I extended the time? What's the worst that can happen if I cut the goal in half? I can make progress toward it. And really, that's the worst thing that can happen. You can begin to progress towards your goal. So avoid the enthusiasm at the expense of commitment. What I mean by this is, we talked about high emotions. So typically, you're very enthusiastic when you set these goals. But how would you define commitment? Travis, how would you define commitment?
Persistence towards one thing.
Okay, persistence. Okay. What about 2 other people? How would you guys define commitment? Discipline, persistence, discipline. One more.
Staying the course.
Staying on course. Awesome. I'm sure you guys my definition of commitment. I believe commitment is staying persistent and disciplined, staying on course, even when the emotions, when you made that commitment, are gone. So when the emotions have gone and left you 6 months down the road, a year down the road, are you still staying disciplined? Are you still staying on course and being persistent? And that's what it's really about, So avoiding the enthusiasm at the expense of commitment is not saying that it's not saying don't be enthusiastic about what you're trying to accomplish. But the real question is, are you setting a goal that you still can be committed to when the emotions are gone? Because the emotions will give you a high, but when they are going to leave for sure. So can you stay committed to that goal? So when you cut your goal in half, this is one thing that he found from a study. So this author, he put a 30-day challenge up, and it was a guy that was studying his PhD. He took the data from this challenge. I think it was 850 people. And I can't remember the name of the challenge. It was like a hustle challenge or something like that. But this is where he got the concept from the book from, really what he learned from the study. And by cutting your goal in half or extending the time frame, it increases your performance by over 63%. So let's say if your goal is to do a 10K, well, you say, well, okay, let me do a 5K. Let me train for a 5K. If you cannot cut your goal in half, increase the timeline you give yourself to achieve your goal. So that's one of the hacks, guys. So, okay, time, real quick, let's break for action and discussion. So, I want you guys to look at these 3. Do either one. Think through either one. Choose your one that works for you. So, think back on other goals you attempted. Were they too big? What happened? Or write down a number associated with a goal that you're working on right now that you may not necessarily have a number for. Meaning that make it objective. Instead of saying I wanna get into reading books. Well, what, you want to read 10 books next year? You want to read, half a book a month? You want to read 10 pages a day? Whatever that goal is. Decide whether to cut your goal in half or double the time. So let's take maybe 2-3 minutes thinking about it for yourself, whichever one of those things, not all of them, whichever one you want to think about, and then let's discuss it amongst, as a group. Yeah, individually. So individually think about it, and then when the timer goes off, maybe the next minute and a half, we'll discuss it as a group, as a whole, as a room.
You guys ready?
Alright, anybody want to share?
About their failure, you going, Dwayne?
You doing, Dwayne?
No, you started to talk, no, I was gonna talk about myself. Yeah, but then you started to say something, do you wanna go,
Okay.
Dwayne? Go ahead.
So, so I've said this goal multiple times. So I said I'm gonna, cause I have a stationary bike at home. So I said I'm gonna ride 5 days a week, every week. Cause I don't have to ride an hour, I have to ride 30 minutes. I'm gonna ride 5 days every week.
Let's be clear, Dwayne, not just a stationary bike. What kind of bike?
See, I didn't think that mattered.
It does matter.
Okay.
Yeah, Peloton,
Yes, so it's a
don't
Peloton.
Getting dusty.
Look at all that coin sitting right there.
And you hang clothes on? There might be
I'm
So,
just
yeah, so every day, right? Now, so starting, so Sunday, it's gonna kick off on Sundays.
Okay.
So for the last few months, I have ridden Sunday, skip a couple Sundays, Sunday. Like, Sunday is good. If I kick it off, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it today. I'm gonna start this week off right. But right on Sunday, there'll be like a week I don't do anything, and then maybe a week or two later, where I'm back in on another Sunday because I'm like, it's Sunday. And so because I said I'm gonna ride 5 days, I have not met that 5-day goal in about 3 months.
Can I ask you a question? How long do you ride?
30 minutes, 30, 45 minutes. So including the warm up and cool down, about 45 minutes.
And he rides 3 minutes every day and just say he's broke.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah,
I
that's
was
what
gonna say
I'm
if I can give a recommendation, set a floor goal.
2 days a week.
So set your floor, maybe 2 days a week, or even your floor goal to at least sitting on the bike.
5 days, 5 minutes.
Or 30 seconds. I mean, cause at the end of the day, it just becomes you wanna build a mental momentum of accomplishing a goal.
But my question is, what's the difference between the other 6 days and Sunday?
Sunday,
You know what I mean?
okay,
So you're setting that time
Okay,
frame
so
for
my
Sunday.
excuse is, okay, so
Okay.
Sunday, I'm off all day Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to do except watch football.
Okay.
Sunday is really my day, like, my family leaves me.
Yeah, okay, so it's your day. So that's the only day you devote to yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
During the week, I get home, like, I don't feel
You're
like it.
tired?
Yeah.
You've been around people.
Well, I tell myself that I'm tired, and so, it doesn't happen. That's honestly what happens. I
Are
get
you
home
a
and I'm
morning
like,
person?
Say again?
Are you a morning
Yes.
person?
So,
So there you go. Maybe you need to set a shorter time frame in the morning.
Pretty much sense, Sarah.
That's part of it. Okay,
I
too
need
much
the
sense.
details. That's
So,
what I
so I
do.
set my
Solve
alarm
other people's
to
problems.
get up in the morning to ride. I'm gonna ride before I go to work.
Yeah,
The alarm goes off.
but you're very routine, aren't you?
5 more years.
And then time to go to work. So it never gets done. So yeah, it's just I just got fit. But I do say
What if
I'm
in the
riding
morning,
5 days.
It could be like 10 minutes in the morning.
Yeah, at least you
You
did
can
it.
get a 10-minute ride real quick.
Yeah, get that
In
blood
my
flowing.
mindset, I can't just ride for 10 minutes.
You could though.
Might
Do it
yourself.
Hey, what is that, guys? What is that?
It's
Might
better than-
yourself.
it's better than nothing, right?
Perfectionism.
Hey, look at the TV doing. Your mindset. Perfectionism is talking to
Chris,
you,
I
bro.
agree with that. I totally agree with that.
You can get a good.
Yeah, because even on those cool downs, those 5-minute cool downs, oh yeah, I'm like, okay, this way.
So Dwayne, we're gonna ask you to embrace imperfection this week, man. Embrace imperfection.
Yes, sir.
It's gonna be uncomfortable.
Can I give him a challenge?
Yeah.
How about this, Dwayne? You ride your bike once a week, right?
Yes.
Somebody else could really benefit from this. So I think you either ride it or you give it away to somebody.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
man.
Won't do that, huh?
That's significant.
Exactly. I'm saying, you see what I'm saying? Like, how much is it worth to you for you to actually take it? And if it's worth that much to you,
I'll
use it.
take it if you don't want it.
Train in the clinic, man.
But yeah,
Patience.
so yeah, that's it's a challenge. It's a challenge for me.
Cool. Thank
But I'm
you.
gonna do better this week. This coming week, Sunday, we start off again.
What's your
But
goal?
Sunday's
What's
your
your
day.
goal?
I'm gonna do 3 days.
Once you start on Saturday.
Why don't you start today? Why don't you sit
Why
on
don't
the
you
dog?
just add in one day?
Sunday.
Yeah, nice it is.
Sunday and then try to squeeze something in Wednesday. That way, Monday and Tuesday, you can do
Well,
whatever it is
Wednesday
you
is my
do.
Chicago PD, my Chicago Live.
Oh my God.
What is that?
What that means? Is
What
that
is
a show?
That's like 3 shows.
Why can't you get on your bike and watch your
PD,
shows?
Fire, and,
Doesn't it have a
Mad.
screen?
Oh, you watch your shows while?
Yeah,
No,
why
the
you-
Peloton is upstairs. There's no TV.
So put a TV upstairs.
Okay, so that's when you,
Alright guys, we're gonna write down all the suggestions and
Hey,
Yeah,
suggestion
but-
block.
Camp means womb.
hey, does anybody else wanna share
Like
real
that,
quick
Gary.
before we move on?
Camp means
I
womb.
can if you want it.
Yeah.
Go, Sarah.
So I've been trying, so we moved and it was awful. We have way too much stuff. I have too many children, too many animals. So I was like, I'm gonna declutter the house as I unpack. Too many rooms, too much stuff.
There's a lot to
And then
go.
my family, yeah, so I blame them.
You should.
I should, because by the time I'm done cleaning up after all of them, and then I'm like, oh, that's right, the garage needs to be decluttered. And I'm
So,
like, no,
how do you feel like you could've, if you had to change that goal?
I should move out. I could move into the shed we built in the backyard, just let them have it. Live in my tiny home.
Or move out?
That is
awesome.
Alright guys, so choose a bomb, so this is the next.
Maybe one room at a time?
Yeah, but that's my problem. I have a hard time staying focused. I think I'm a little touched up here, so I'll take stuff from one thing and I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do with it, and then I get in another room and I'm like, oh, that's right, I was doing laundry, and then I'll like start doing that, and then I'll move into another room, and then I'll forget like what I started until I get back to that room, and I'm like, oh, I can't stay on task now. It's
Start
hard.
with one box.
It's been going better.
Don't leave that.
Yeah, I put a box back there for
Hey, Sarah
Chris.
and I, we're gonna move on.
Oh.
Yeah, so there you go.
Appreciate it, guys.
Don't forget your box.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
That's my
see?
wife right there. So choose a bomb. So this is the next mindset hack. So so to be good at one thing, you have to be bad at something else. So obviously, if you're gonna give time to something, then you got to choose what you want to bomb at. You got to choose what you want to be bad at, especially if you're gonna give time to doing. So Brenda, she's written multiple books. So I'm assuming that the time that she had to allocate towards that, she may have chosen to not do something else. Maybe. Would you say that's true? So in some cases there may be a greater pool. So think about a person that like the example I gave earlier about the book writer, because this is something that the author talks about. He has little kids, so he had to choose to not that he wasn't a good dad, but that was what perfectionism was telling him. So on a certain day, his wife said, "Hey, just at this time, 2 hours, knock it out. You know, every single Monday, 2 hours." So you have to choose to step away from some situation so you can give your best to another. Perfectionism tells you that you can do it all. Reality is you cannot do it all. So you have to be incompetent, but be incompetent strategically. So this is when you decide ahead of time what you're gonna bomb. You decide ahead of time what you're okay with not being good at. But here's the thing about it, realizing that it's not forever, you know, so when you choose to bomb something, it's not permanent, you know, you just gotta do it for right now. But it's all about reallocating resources. So what is the biggest resource? Time. When it comes down to accomplishing a goal, a lot of times we gotta give our time towards it. I put relationships and boundaries up here because of the famous word that we all getting very good at. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
No.
No. Huh? What did you say? Boundaries,
So
yeah.
what's the
No.
So no. So
It depends. That's the PT answer.
so boundaries. So we talked about the idea of, let's say for instance, if you focus, you got a goal, but we know that relationships, friends, colleagues, whatever, they could be pulling us in certain ways of, hey, let's spend time, let's hang out. Let's say for instance, you and your buddies, you guys usually get together on a golf course, and you already know they're gonna bring a 6-pack of beer, whatever. But you know, hey, I'm trying to get away from that. So this is when the boundaries come in place, and you having to say, hey, well, no, man, well, look, I'm trying to work on X, Y, and Z, you know. So, but reallocate your resources. And when you think about this, is it this thing must be on a timer, because it's just going on and on. So, is it a privilege or a sacrifice? So when I think about privilege or sacrifice, the way I define this is a privilege is when I'm giving up something lesser for something greater. Sacrifice it's when I'm giving up something greater for something that's lesser. And when you think about you committing to your goal and you being consistent at what you're trying to accomplish and beginning to build your self-image, your self-respect, looking at yourself differently, being able to look at the person in the mirror and be proud of themselves, would you say that's something that's greater? I mean, I think for me, that's greater than me hanging out with a friend in leisure time. But you know, you gotta decide for yourself, is it a privilege or a sacrifice when you're choosing to bomb certain things? And again, it's not permanent, it's something that's short term. So action and discussion, make a list of 3 things you can bomb while you're trying to achieve your top goal. You can choose to do that, or for things you cannot bomb, like cooking dinner for your kids. Write down a few ideas of how you can simplify. So let's maybe take a couple minutes to do this, and we can discuss, and then we'll be wrapping things up. So 3 things you can bomb, or some ideas of stuff you can't bomb. So what? I mean, anybody have some very important, massive goals they're working on right now? Naomi? OCS?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble, like, my Fridays are supposed to be my study days, but my Fridays are also my house cleaning days.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm having trouble, like, being at home, or like, people have to go to the orthodontist, or people need to,
Can't bomb that, huh?
you know, yeah, so that's, so that I've taken off a couple of Thursdays.
Yeah.
Or I'm just in my head, I'm like, I need to get a housekeeper.
Say your Fridays are your everything, man.
I think
Yeah.
housekeeper.
Yeah.
Been talking about one for years.
Yeah, so now we'll take, let's take like a minute to think about it, and then we can discuss it for.
March 1st and 22nd.
Oh, okay.
March 1st and 22nd.
Oh,
I know it's in that range.
And once we have a date, we put the mind only focus on OCS. I think the date will. Yeah.
They get a toy, you get what you want. And delicious. Outside that.
I used that thing 5 times
Apple
this
slices,
month,
but they're
and I
nice.
normally use it every 6 months. More and more interesting.
God bless them. Show up.
Anybody want to discuss? Anybody come up with 3 things that they can bomb?
That dishes.
You can bomb dishes?
Yeah, cause I got a dishwasher. I
Okay.
can choose to use it.
Cool. So what is the goal, and you gonna bomb those things, or you just want to bomb that regardless what the goal is?
Because there's not enough time in the day, so I could take the time it takes to wash dishes, and
Okay.
throw them in the dishwasher.
What's yours then?
The soda, I'm done.
So
As a,
is that perfectionism time?
Yeah,
No, I have to, cause I stopped in, back in the past, and I started again, that's really an addiction for me.
Yeah.
And I need to lose weight, so I've gained more weight because of all that shit, so I need to, and
So
I'm gonna
maybe
start with the
stop
soda, because I
Dunkin'.
that's why I say I'm going to start with the soda.
Start with
I'm not having
soda.
Dunkin' as much as before,
Yeah.
but like, maybe I have Dunkin' once a week.
Snowball,
Okay.
snowball.
Versus every day that I used to make, I had to, every day I would come into work with Dr. Coffee, every single day.
What the way with
Maybe
Gonna
once,
change that
yeah. Now
habit.
it's like once a week, if, you know.
Okay.
But
Wednesday.
but I'm gonna stop the soda.
Okay.
So then I can stop the sugar completely and then.
what's the difference?
I bombed this year class.
Today?
You bomb teaching class? Tell me about that.
Methodist, so I already teach 2 classes there, and they asked me to teach a third, which is their communications. I was cool, oh, this is right up your lane. But then I had to realize my goals for the year, and even though it's only Thursdays from 8 to 10, and then I have to go back to lab from 2 to 5, with virtually locked up. And even though it's only 4 weeks left because the professor is leaving, I had to realize the alignment of my, does it first of all align with my goal for the year? No, it didn't. And number 2, did it align with, like, financially? No, it really didn't. But then I had to figure out what my non-negotiables were with my capacity. And I think when I really looked back and thought about what I really wanted to do, it wasn't. And luckily, they found somebody to take it over, so it was cool. But it was that idea of y'all can do it, I think I can do it too.
Yeah.
Wow, class.
That's good, that's good. That's great, man. Alright, so, leaving your hiding place. This is what I thought was very, very interesting, your hiding place. Well, let's skip down a line. I'm using my laser, I hadn't used it all day. Alright, so, a hiding place is the safe place you go to hide from your fear of messing up. So, here's the thing that was interesting to me. Some look like productivity more than avoidance. So sometimes our hiding places look like we're being productive. So that's a rationalization in our mind why we feel comfortable there, because we think we're being productive. So for me, it was the book. Like I get halfway into, I have so many unfinished books, and I get excited about another book where I feel like, man, I need to know the content in this book. So I feel like it's a positive thing. I'm not avoiding reading. I'm just going to another book. And that was my hiding. That's one of my hiding places with that. But the closer you get to finishing a goal, the more interesting everything else in your life becomes. Like the closer you get to, and that's just resistance. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get resistance. We understand that. I mean, every time we're trying to achieve something better in life, or make a different step to get us out of our current situation, we're gonna experience resistance. And a part of that resistance is subconsciously. I don't know if I guess it's a subconscious thing or whatever, but it's that hiding place that begins to become more prominent, and you may not even be aware of. Remember, what's next will always look more interesting than what's now. So always will. You always find a new shining toy to pursue. But the real question is, have you finished what you started? Have you stayed committed to what you said you was gonna do? So here are my nuggets. Chris's nuggets on goal setting. This is gonna be a book one day. Bam. So dream big but set goals small. So I'm not telling you guys don't dream big. It takes the same amount of energy to dream as small and big. Same amount of energy. But set the goal smaller, because if you set a goal small, well, really the goals are the bite-sized accomplishments on your way to your dream. So dream big, but then set small goals to get to your bite-sized accomplishment. I mean, that's not right. Set bite-sized goals to get you to your accomplishment. The purpose of goal setting is not to hit the goal. That's a breakthrough from me. The purpose of goal setting is not to hit the goal. It's to make progress towards the goal.
Like make new goals every time.
Yeah, so I mean, how often do we hit goals that we set in the time frame that we set them? And some people can say, well, sure, the purpose of goal setting is to hit the goal. I'm not saying it's not to hit the goal, but I'm saying it's not to hit the goal. And what I mean by that, it directs you in the place where you're gonna hit the goal. Because before, your mind was not even focused on what you were trying to accomplish. When you set a goal, it directs your focus. It gives you clarity on what you're trying to accomplish.
Are you talking about the big goal?
The big goal.
The big goal, but your little goals, you want to accomplish those.
Sure,
Your
you
little
want to accomplish those
incremental
because it's
things.
gonna get you momentum. But
Just we're on the same page.
but I mean, it's really to kind of get you. The purpose is to get you moving. So think about the spacecraft corrections. You know, when they set a destination, this spacecraft, they set a destination. They never go in a straight path. They're constantly making minor tweaks and adjustments. You know, sometimes they go a little too far right, a little too far left, and it's all the way until they get to the destination. And that's a purpose of setting a goal, the big goal, because, and we didn't even get into all of this, but you want to have a larger goal, a longer term goal that's set out, you know, that'll kind of get you directed out, you know, your 3-year goal, your 5-year goal, but then you have your bite-sized goal. It could even be a weekly goal, but that bigger goal gets you pointed at where you want to be. You know, that's kind of, what is the outcome of my life going to be? You know, what are the things that are more important to me? Let me direct my focus towards that, and then you begin to build back on setting smaller goals. But it's always going to be small tweaks. So don't expect to be perfect. Don't expect for it to be in a straight line. Just expect to stay on the right path and moving towards the right direction. Alrighty, guys. Here's my encouragement to you. Go finish strong. Go win.
Okay, all right, so I need everybody to pick a delegate, a representative from your group. And maybe not somebody that has already been used before. You guys y'all overpowered, y'all got 6, they got 3, y'all got 5, okay.
whatever it is.
Y'all wanna keep 3 or do y'all wanna borrow somebody?
You like our third.
Oh, okay.
Who's wrong over there?
Alright, so since you guys have the least amount of people, I need a delegate to come forward. Quickly. I need a delegate from over here. Come on, Joy, you delegate. Joy, no, you were the delegate already. You delegated to get all the stuff.
You had new D's over there, you need a,
Delegate, what?
And Travis, grab 5 of these, please.
5.
Brenda,
Good
you can
job.
grab 5. And then who's your delegate over here?
one of you guys.
Yeah, one of you guys can be delegate.
You got 5. Alright, Brenda, grab 5 of these.
No, you're the delegate, so
All
you
right.
don't have to delegate, maybe.
Alright, these are your 5. So here it
Oh,
is,
wait, I
guys.
accidentally pulled one
Alright, how many you have? No, how many pieces of paper do you have?
5.
Travis, you got 5?
Yes, sir.
You got 5 over here? Y'all got 5, Brenda?
Yes.
Okay, so here you go. I should give y'all extra because y'all got 6, but don't worry about it. So here's what you do. Amongst yourselves, you can't ask any other table. Your goal is to identify whose small gift this is.
Oh.
And it might not be somebody at your table.